Hello, gorgeous. It's Lala Kent. Welcome to Untraditionally Lala. Hello, gorgeous. Welcome back to Untraditionally Lala. I have officially become a fan of the Mormon Wives show on Hulu, and there's a reason for that. So Miranda, who just recently was added to the cast, and it's crazy because Utah is definitely a small place. So I know of Miranda because of Easton, my brother, and Miranda was dating one of Easton's best friends. So when she entered the mix of Mormon Wives, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get her on the pod. So please give your loudest warm welcome to Miranda from Mormon Wives. Hello, Miranda Hope. How are you, my love?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good. You look stunning.
Good.
Love the cross necklace.
Thank you. Thank you. True Mormon fashion, right?
True Mormon fashion. How is Utah these days?
It's good. I mean, probably better than it used to be, I would say.
Really? Why do you say that?
I don't know. I just feel like, I'm from Idaho, which is kind of like an extension of Utah. I would say it's like a little more diverse. Not by much, but a little bit.
Yeah, that's where we would go to get the kegs for parties, is Idaho.
There you go. See, yeah. The liquor laws are a little better for sure. But yeah, I feel like growing up in Idaho, I still had a lot of the same, cultural things that you deal with growing up in Utah. But I feel like Utah just feels, and Idaho too, just feels a lot more diverse. I think, maybe it's because a lot of people have left the church and a lot of people have moved into the state. I think there's a few factors that play a role in it, but I feel like it's different than it used to be for sure.
Yeah, I left Utah when I was 23 and I'm 35 now. And growing up there was such a it was a wonderful place to grow up. I would not have had it any differently. But there I was looked at as kind of like the black sheep, where it was like, oh, we don't hang out with Lauren because she's not a part of the church. So actually, when people say, was it hard to make friends there? It was like, no, because the non-Mormons kind of gravitated toward each other.
Yeah, the few that there were.
We were like, we're all we've got.
Right.
And so it is interesting to me because when I first learned about this Mormon show that was going to be on Hulu, I was like, I don't know that I can watch. It's a little too close to home. And I think that there are things that they're going to show that may be a bit triggering because my dad grew up in the Mormon Church. So my family members were like a little quirky.
Right.
To put it kindly.
Makes sense. Yes. Yeah.
So how long had you been in the mix without being on the show?
Like MomTok and everything?
Yeah, MomTok. Were you there from the beginning?
Yeah, so it was me and Taylor. It was during the pandemic. We had been friends. Taylor and I became friends in, let's say it was probably 2018.
Okay.
I think it was probably about 2018. And then during the pandemic, we, that's kind of when TikTok started taking off and we just started making videos together. And then a few months after that, that's when we met Camille. And then started making TikToks with Camille. She's the other like blonde friend that she's actually not on the show, but
okay.
The three of us started making TikToks together. We would joke that like because people think we're twins, me and Camille, we would joke that like Taylor was our mom. That gained a lot of traction, and then it just kind of like took off from there. And then obviously with the whole swinging scandal, that's when everything like fell apart. And then had a bit of a hiatus, and then came back.
So when you guys, were you part of the swinging scandal? Were you in the mix?
Yes. Yeah. I wasn't entirely forthcoming about my involvement in the beginning, for sure. Yeah. But I think the place that I was coming from back then, though, was definitely because the way that Taylor was portraying it was very much in a light that wasn't what I felt like was reality at all. That there were other couples that were involved in way more. And with me and then my husband at the time, it was like the length, and I say this in the show, but the furthest we ever went was when we played spin the bottle and like kissed people. But there was no like real like swinging or switching. And so to me, I'm just like, even now, like, I think it's funny because sometimes people will be like, that's kind of like a like laughable version of swinging, but also like for Mormons, like it's crazy. You know what I mean?
It's a big deal. It's a huge deal.
Yeah. big deal. And also like the thing is, I'm like, yes, I wasn't swinging per se, but it was still weird, still like a weird thing to be involved in. And then also your super Mormon parents and like finding that out. And my parents didn't even know really at the time. I think they had a hunch, but they didn't really even know at the time that I was in the midst of a faith crisis as well. So then I just had such a it was hard. It was really heavy dealing with, okay, well now I'm having to confront the fact that I don't know that I believe in the church anymore. And I don't know if I want to be a part of this. On top of, by the way, I'm supposedly a swinger and my marriage
Right.
is falling apart. So it was just a lot all at once.
Did you find that you were kind of shunned from the Mormon community because Utah, I'm from there and I know that
Hmm.
people talk and things are
Yeah.
very like when something happens within the church and in your ward, it's like they can't get enough of the gossip, but
Oh, yeah.
some people thrive off of, you know, pushing you out, which kind
Yeah.
of goes against the entire point of the religion, which is like love and acceptance and like forgiving people.
Right.
Did you find that people started treating you differently?
I mean, to be honest, I kind of feel like I already was like ostracized to a degree a little bit just because like at that point I wasn't super active. I think like sometimes like little things that I would post here and there would maybe be like a little controversial or like problematic to some people. So I think there was already a little bit of talk, but yeah, when the whole swinging thing like came out for sure, like my hometown I know was having an absolute heyday. Um, and I think for me, it was more so like I didn't care as much about that. It was more so like just my family. Like I have a very close relationship with my family. I feel like at the time too, I had a really deep fear of disappointing my family and my parents and you know, we've worked through a lot and I give them grace for you know the work that they've done to be accepting of me and like where I am now. But yeah, I think that was probably the hardest part for me as far as like, you know, people that I went to high school with or people in my old neighborhood, that I'm kind of like, what difference does it make to, I'm not going to see you either way. So
Right.
whatever. But yeah, for sure. You hear whisperings and like later on, it is interesting because I feel like once I actually joined the show and it was like at first it's like talk of the town, you're a harlot basically. And then it
Right.
goes from that to then when there's a level of like fame that comes with it, then there's like a little bit of a switch up sometimes where it's like, hey, sorry for everything that like I said about you or whatever, which I'm like, I appreciate, but it's also like interesting timing, you know what I mean? And so I feel like
Yeah.
there was a little bit of that, but all in all, I feel like I don't feel like I let like the outside noise affect me too much. I think it was really just mostly my really close relationships that I was trying to protect and worried about.
Are you still active in the church?
No.
Okay. And has that affected your relationship with your family?
Yes and no. Like I would say no now. At first, it was difficult. Like there were definitely a lot of hard conversations and you know, there are certain things that I know that like my parents and I might never really see eye to eye on, but at the end of the day, I feel like they've realized work that they need to do in order to like be really like accepting and loving of me because I know that their love is unconditional and they've really made an effort to make me feel like it is. And so I really commend them for that. And I feel like because of that, we've been able to maintain a really good relationship.
That's amazing because there are so many parts of the Mormon religion and many religions. You know, I think coming from Utah, religion now scares me in any capacity, no matter what it is, organized religion, I just
Yeah.
don't want any part of. But there are so many things that come with the Mormon religion that are so beautiful, right?
Yeah,
So I'm sure having a daughter who kind of decided to take a different path taught your family a different level of acceptance.
totally. Yeah. I think that you know when you grow up one way and then you stay around the same area and you're surrounded by people that are like-minded, it kind of you automatically are going to have you know you're not going to really think outside the box and it's
Right.
hard for you to really like develop opinions of your own. And I think that's something I, you know, through my faith crisis, really realized that I was important to me. And, you know, that's something that I'll give my ex credit for too, is that he actually left the church prior to me, like really diving into things. But he, I think, has always been a really free thinker. And I feel like while I was going through my faith crisis, I think it really, really taught me to trust myself. And I think that's also been, eye-opening for my family as well. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, I told my parents, I'm like, you didn't raise a daughter that is Mormon, you raised a daughter that has good morals. And obviously, yeah, have I made mistakes along the way in my life? Of course. But also, like, at the end of the day, like, I know that I have a strong sense of self. I know that I have good morals and good ethics. And like, to me, that should be more important than my activity level within the religion that you're a part of.
Right.
And I think they see that now. And, they see that even though I might live differently and think differently than they do, that I still am a good person and I'm still who they raised me to be. And I feel like, that's validating for them. And overall, just having that mutual respect has been really great. And I've been really grateful to see them kind of flourish and think outside of the box. And whether it be like religion or politics or just like really anything, I feel like they're a lot more open to a lot of things, really, ever since the beginning of my faith crisis, which I really appreciate.
Do you ever have guilt? Because I know that my dad, he left the church when he was, gosh, I want to say 22, so well before I was even born. And there were moments of him being in his 50s where he would have some sort of internal battle because, he was raised in that environment for so long that there were times that he would feel guilt over some, like the strangest things.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I'm just now getting to a point where I've dropped almost all of that. And who's to say, right? Like I could be much like your dad, where down the line, maybe I have something resurface. I think obviously growing and healing, it's obviously like an ever evolving experience, but I think that I before and for a while at first after I chose to step away from it, it was really hard, especially because my dad came from a background where he was really the only religious one, and he had siblings that made decisions that landed them in really tough situations, and he had a rough upbringing in a
Okay.
lot of ways. And so I think for him, his personality type like clung to it. And I think for him, it like saved him in a lot of ways. And so I think I held guilt because I felt like I was responsible for his feelings. I didn't want to like set him off by, me choosing to think differently and believe differently. And something my dad always took pride in was the fact that, all of his daughters, because I'm the youngest of four girls.
Oh, how
And
fun.
yeah, no, it's so great. But that we all, were such great and like valiant women and members of the church. And we married returned missionaries and got sealed in the temple. Like, all the boxes were being checked. And
Mm-hmm.
so I felt like I was stripping him of that, like, badge of honor that I felt like he had, that like my parents had. And so I feel like I carried a lot of guilt for that. And, I think throughout my journey, I've realized that obviously I'm my own person and that I'm not responsible for everybody's feelings all the time. And that's like something that I've taken upon myself a lot, like throughout my life and my relationships and friendships. And I feel like I'm now at a point where I don't feel like I do that. And I realize that it's okay to be a little bit selfish and necessary and to set boundaries. And that's something that like they've also, it was difficult at first. And yeah, I felt a lot of guilt and shame. But I think that like because my parents like do respect me now, I think I probably would still feel that way if they treated me poorly because of my
Right.
decision. But because they still respect me and have love for me, I think it makes it a lot easier for me to drop that guilt for sure.
Of course. So when did you decide, or I guess when did they approach you to say, "Hey, we think you'd be great for the show on Hulu, Secret Lives"?
Oh, it was in 2022.
Okay, because I remember, my brother Easton,
Yes.
and he's friends with Jake, your ex,
Uh-huh. Yes.
and correct me if I'm wrong. I remember you being approached, or I had heard you had been approached, like
Hmm.
at the very beginning of the show, and you were not really into the idea. It was like, I'm kind of good on that.
Yes.
So was that just because you didn't know the direction? Was life chaotic at that point in time?
Yeah, so I was still married. Um,
Okay.
And at that point in our marriage, we were kind of like, I was like already 1 foot out, but like
Right.
trying to like make it work, not really sure what I wanted. And so, you hear like what reality TV is about and how toxic it can be, and really like, and it's true. If you have skeletons in your closet, like be prepared for those to come out. Like that's for sure accurate. And it wasn't, it's for me, I'm like, am I wanting or willing to put everything we're going through like under a microscope when I already had just, like the way I was thinking was like I was already kind of exploited online, like without my consent.
Mm.
Like, why would I willingly put myself in a position to do that again? Like, of my own doing. It didn't really make sense. And I just like I kept trying to justify it, and it just like did not feel good to me. Like my like gut was telling me no. And so ultimately I decided that it wasn't for me. And also too, like Taylor and I were not in good standing at that point either. And so I'm like, do I want to go be around this person too that like doesn't make me feel good, that like disturbs my peace and doesn't make me feel great about myself? And there's a lot of trauma still there that I'm trying to work through. It just like did not seem like it would be a good idea. And so I decided against it. They like filmed the pilot, obviously with some like with Taylor's arrest and everything, they like paused everything for a while. And then they ended up filming, and then yeah, it was released, and it was like 2 days after season one aired. I got a call from one of the producers, and he was like, "Hey, have you reconsidered?" And at this point, I was divorced or
Okay.
split, separated. He had moved out. But like my mind was made up on that. And so at this point, I'm like, I'm a single mom. Obviously I do social media already. And I'm like, maybe I do reconsider this in a different light. And at that point, I just felt completely different about it. And in fact, like everyone around me was like, I just don't think it's like the best idea. And I just felt so differently about it. I was like, I actually, like, I don't have that pit in my stomach now. I feel like I need to do this. And so ultimately I signed my contract the day before my first day of filming, because I was so back and forth.
And do you have any regrets doing it?
No.
So you had a blast?
It was honestly, I would say that I think it's been, knock on wood, I think it's been a lot more positive than I think I was imagining.
Yeah.
I think you have a lot more in control than I thought I would have.
Okay.
And maybe that's just like the way that our production works. Maybe that's, I'm sure it's different across all shows. Maybe like you feel differently with Vanderpump, but I think there's, obviously you have like editing and everything that goes into it, but all in all, I feel like so far I've been able to like show up as my authentic self, and like whatever you have to give them enough to like spin something out of. You know what I mean? Like I think like
Right.
Whitney, for example, like with season one being the villain, it wasn't like Whitney was just rainbows and butterflies and sunshine the whole time, and they like made her out to look like a villain, right? Like you have to have some villain-esque qualities. And I, not to say that I haven't, I'm like definitely not perfect.
And everyone has their day. You're
Totally.
the angel one year, and the next year you're the villain.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Like one season you can be great, the next season, like, yeah, you're the villain 100%. And so I think that like for me though, I'm like, I'll be the villain as long as I feel like I'm showing up authentically. Like if I feel like I'm being true to who I am and like people don't love that, I'll take it on the chin. Like
I
that
love
is what it
that.
is.
That's like the ultimate reality TV star though. Cause you have to go to bed with yourself at night. So like, no matter what the comment section says,
Yeah.
I know that the moment I walk in the door, I have to know that I stand behind everything that I said. And I didn't do it because I wanted the comment section to look a certain way or I wanted people to like me. I did that
Yes.
because that was my truth.
And I would do it again. Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what?
100%.
If it doesn't land and I have regrets about it, then how hard is it to say, I'm sorry, I wish I could redo that?
Exactly.
Not
100%.
a big
100%.
deal. Did you enjoy doing the reunion with Nick Vial?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I think that there, I feel like it was kind of the wholesome edition, not that all of it was wholesome, but it was kind of the wholesome edition that I feel like we needed. I think that like it added more depth and like more, it allowed people to see other sides of
Right.
a lot of our cast. And it opened the door to having empathy and like people realizing that we are real people with real feelings that go through real things.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that was good. I think um I did my I did a podcast with Nick last season, and I feel like he was great with that and everything. And so overall, like I feel like it went well. And
So that was your guys' first reunion. Like they hadn't done one for the first season.
no,
There's
no.
nothing better than a reunion, man.
Oh my gosh.
It just ties it all up in a
It
bow.
does. It
I
does in
was
a nice
so
little bow.
happy to hear that you guys were doing that. I have to ask, and people sometimes think I'm nuts when I say this. I find reality TV to be at times very therapeutic, and it allows me to in normal life when a camera's not on, I very much pick my battles, right? And I think people would be shocked by this, but I can become a doormat very quickly because I just don't want to deal. When there's a camera up and it's like, okay, I now get to say everything that I always want to say. And it like allows me to say, okay, I can set a boundary in this moment. I'm not going to pick my battle. I'm going to defend myself. Do you think that once you started filming, that you were allowed to make amends with people, hash things out to get to a better place? I don't know what the upcoming season is, so I don't want to ask, like, are you
Yeah.
and Taylor good? But, like, so in a more
Yeah.
kosher way, did you find that you did that?
Yes, I could not possibly agree more with you. I think, more than any other materialistic benefit that has come from the show, I think that like gut feeling that I had for when it came to deciding on season two was more about coming into myself and becoming my most authentic self than anything else.
Wow.
And I think that you're 100% right and you can even kind of see it in season one. Like, obviously, I'm like coming in walking on eggshells, I'm like, I know that I'm walking into the lion's den. I know that I'm like in a situation where, there's daggers on me. I know that I'm not being welcomed with open arms entirely. And so I think that obviously kind of made me little weary of being super vocal and 100% speaking my mind all the time, taking a back seat in certain situations. And I feel like as time has gone on, I think that, and as I've built real relationships with the women and, gotten used to everything and become more comfortable, I've like dropped so much of that. Like I also realized how much I put myself in a box and by labeling myself as like, oh, like I'm kind of a people pleaser. Like, and now I'm like, I might have people pleasing tendencies sometimes, but like I'm not a people pleaser. I also realized that like after my marriage, I think that like there were a lot of things that I was just like, you know what, it's not worth it. Kind of like you
Yeah.
said, pick your battles. And then, I think with like when I was dating Jake, I realized, after being in my marriage and then dating somebody like Jake, I was like, I'm actually like way more confrontational than I thought I was. And I was putting
Okay.
myself in a box based on who I was like surrounded with, and so I feel like it's been the same thing with filming where I'm in situations where you're kind of like, I don't want to say like rewarded for speaking up, but like it's like a welcome, whether the response is great or not, that it's like, okay, we're here to speak our minds.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well, I guess like, yeah, everyone else is speaking their minds. Like maybe I should start speaking my mind. And as I do that, and as I have done that, and like you'll see a little bit of that in season three. But as I start doing that, I'm like, oh, this is actually, I feel so good about this. And like that's like I feel like a huge weight lifted, actually,
Totally.
ironically. And I feel like it's just helped me be so much more authentic to myself and show up as who I am. And it's not like I'm acting out of character because it's my real thoughts and feelings. I'm just finally voicing it.
Finally voicing it. I have to ask. So I at times see well, by the time I see it, it's a reel, but I'm sure it's a TikTok. I'm like 90 years old. You seem to have like a very healthy co-parenting situation with your ex. Is it up and down, or did you just get lucky? Because I'm very envious. You would not catch me dead making a TikTok with my ex.
Well, I understand that it's like very unconventional, and that's when people are like, "Well, why don't you guys just get back together?" I'm like, "You couldn't pay me. No chance. No chance will we ever get back together." But I think it's a little bit of both, where yes, there are times where it's ups and down, more stable than it's ever been for sure. I mean, at
Amazing.
first, and I think Jake can kind of attest to this because we started dating, pretty quickly after our split, but where it was like a lot more up and down for sure. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, like I honestly thought that we would co-parent really well.
Right.
This is so hard. And it was, we were just really trying to find our footing. And so it wasn't like great from the beginning, but I think as like we both continued to heal and work on ourselves and, date other people and whatever, I think that like, and we got a good situation going with the kids, it got a lot easier. But Chase and I always had a good basis of friendship to where like, even because our relationship was very like on and off and up and down when we were dating, but like even when we weren't like dating, I feel like we got along like fairly well. And, I'm not really one to hold grudges. I mean, that's, part of why I feel like Taylor and I can be friends again. I don't like holding on to that. And so I feel like we just have given each other grace, and really at the end of the day, we prioritize the kids first. And I think I still see us as a family unit. It just looks different, obviously, than it used to.
That is amazing. Do you want more kids, or are you done?
I'm open to both. If I were to like not get remarried or marry someone that already had kids or something, I would be okay with not having more.
Okay.
But if I were to marry somebody who did want children, I would be open to having like 2 max, like even like 1 maybe.
It's like the Mormon starter pack for kids.
No, literally, I know. And I always said, I was like, okay, 3. Like if I were still married, we probably would have had like a third and then been done. But I'm like, I don't know, because if I married someone who didn't have children and they wanted 2 of their own, I'd be like, okay, but I get really sick during my pregnancy, so I'm just like, I don't know. So we'll see, but I'm open to both.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Oh, girl, you got plenty of time. Plenty
I'm like,
of time.
I'm not really worried about it right now.
Well, and you got married so young and had kids so young. So do you feel like this is your time in life where you're like, I'm on fucking television. I'm going to go out and date and do whatever it is that you maybe didn't get to do when you were young, that most people do get to do?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think this is definitely like my me era. And, it looks maybe a little bit different than most people's me era because I have 2 children that are like my priority. But I think that even after Jake and I broke up, I just was like, I just want to, like, I know I need to focus on myself and my kids and my career right now. Like, I know I can't give a relationship right now what I feel like a relationship needs. And even now, like, I've like barely dated even since then. Like I don't really go out. I don't do dating apps. I don't do much besides work, honestly, right now.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I'm open to whatever happens, but I feel like it would kind of almost have to fall in my lap just because I am at peace with where I'm at right now. I'm not really looking for anything. And I'm just focusing on my kids and me and my career, and we'll see where it takes me, but I'm content with that for now.
What a wonderful place to be, right? Where you're just at peace. And I saw this thing that Lady Gaga said the other day. She was like, if you're trying to decide between your career and a man, just remember your career will never wake you up in the middle of the night and tell you they don't love you anymore.
Oh my gosh, 100%, 100%. And that's the thing is, I'm like, what a man is competing with is that like, it's not another man. It is my peace. And that is an incredibly difficult thing to compete with because I can't imagine living with a man.
Oh, I know. Once you get a taste of like freedom and like control of the energy in your environment, it's men really do not have it easy anymore.
No. I mean, that male loneliness epidemic is really doing its thing. And honestly, thank God.
I love it. I'm so grateful that you made time for me today. And you guys, I want to thank you for listening to another episode of Untraditionally Lala. I'm going to catch you guys on Monday for a bonus and again next week. Bye.